So, always Latin 1 students, welcome back. I wanted to help you guys with your most recent assignment today, but first I thought we would do a fact of the day to keep learning about Roman culture a little bit whenever we can. And so today's fact of the day might be included on the next quiz, so make sure to take some good notes in your fact of the day section. Right after this, I'll take you to exercise A to help you with that and make sure you understood what to do there. So today's fact of the day, I thought we would do some history, and we'll do one of the most chaotic but important years in Roman history, and that's the year AD 69. I'll tell you exactly why it was so famous, but you know a year is famous when it has its own title, and this year is known very famously through world history as the year of the four emperors, right? So some years just so much happens that they have a specific title or a specific name, and that's exactly what happened here. So it's no surprise this is called the year of the four emperors because there was four emperors in this one year. How in the world could that happen? I'll kind of explain what happened there. It all started in 68 with the Emperor Nero, who was emperor at the time. And Nero was the fifth emperor of Rome. He was of a dynasty we call the Julio-Claudian emperors because that's the family the emperors were from, the Julio and the Claudian family. So we have Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and then Nero is the fifth emperor. Now, Nero started to be emperor in 54 AD when he was 16, so he was very young when he took over, and he didn't have a ton of experience, but he had some tutors. His mother helped him. He had some help. So the first part of his reign started off pretty good, and he largely did a good job. He listened to his advisors, etc., and the first part of his reign was okay. After a while, after he grew up a little bit, he started not listening as much to the advisors. He was a bit annoyed they were trying to control him. He eventually killed a lot of his advisors that had been there since he was young, and he even killed his mother, who was called Agrippina, and basically he just wanted to be kind of free and to do his own thing. So I won't tell you the entire story of his reign, but basically throughout his reign, it kind of was a downward trajectory. It got worse and worse. And as we get to the year 68, the walls are closing in, things are falling apart. You have different provinces that are in rebellion against Nero because he had gotten so unpopular. He was unpopular with the people in Rome because a large fire had burned down a lot of their houses, and Nero had built a palace where the fire had burned down their houses. Instead of giving them back their houses, he had built a palace for himself. So he had gotten so unpopular that by the year 68, things were just kind of crumbling down around him. And so in June, he could tell what's going to happen. He's going to be assassinated probably pretty soon or attacked and killed. So he decides to kill himself before any of that can happen. He kills himself in June of 68. Now, the reason this starts off a bad time is because Nero doesn't have a grown-up child or some kind of heir, even a nephew or something. He has no heir, right? And the empire is still relatively new. There had only been 5 emperors. There was no constitution telling us, okay, there's a vice president or something like there is nowadays. No one knew who would be the next emperor, and it had gotten so entrenched, the idea of having an emperor. So no one knew what was going to happen. So basically, chaos just kind of broke loose, where you had several generals who had their soldiers declared them emperor because there was no clear idea who would be emperor. And that's why you had multiple emperors in one year. So pretty soon after Nero died in June, and let me kind of show you the map here and get myself out of the way. Basically, these are the different generals here whose soldiers thought, hey, my general is as good as anyone else, and we respect him, we like him. Maybe he should be emperor. There was no process for who would be the next emperor. It had just kind of developed naturally. So these generals are controlling different parts of the empire, but none of them control everything. So of course they're going to fight with each other. So what's about to break out? A massive civil war, which embroils Rome for about a year and a half, which is massive. So after Nero dies, the first person who tried to basically gain control and his soldiers declared him the emperor was called Galba. And you can see the years of his, not even the years, the months of his reign there. He was only emperor for, 7 or 8 months. And it's hard to do that much in that amount of time. Within just a month or two of Galba being declared emperor, you have 2 other generals very quickly get declared emperor as well by their soldiers. Now, Galba is the only one in Italy, so the other soldiers have to basically make their way to Italy and try to fight Galba for control of Italy. So another soldier who was declared emperor was Otho. He's usually the second of the year of the four emperors, and we consider him emperor from January. That's when Galba was killed in battle, and then January through April. But at the same time, you have another general whose soldiers declared him uh, emperor, and that was Vitellius. And again, this is all happening at the same time, but then they're kind of fighting each other at different times. So it's a very chaotic year. So Otho dies, and Vitellius becomes emperor in April. But as you can see, he's not even emperor for a whole year there. He's emperor from April to December. Now, the final guy who gets declared emperor by his soldiers is, let me go back to the map here, called Vespasian. You've heard of him. He was mentioned in a video once that we did, but he was stationed out in the far east here. You can notice this is his provinces. He was dealing with some issues in Syria, and he controls parts of Egypt, etc. So he was pretty far away, which actually worked out to his advantage because the other generals were fighting it out back in Italy mostly, and it took him longer to get back, which turned out to be a good thing for him because they kind of drained their resources, they got into multiple battles, and his soldiers were more rested by the time this all shakes out. So you have a big battle between the forces of Vitellius and the forces of Vespasian, right? And there's a massive clash. Vespasian actually sends his forces back to fight. They actually a big part of them go ahead of him, and a big battle happens in December of 69. Vespasian wins. Vitellius is killed in the fighting, and this is when Vespasian becomes emperor. So if you're counting, you've had Galba, Otho, Vitellius, and Vespasian all recognized as the emperor during this 1 year of 69 AD. It's hard to even think about, right, that happening today, because we know kind of if the president dies, we know what happened. There's a vice president, there's a constitution. But 4 emperors in 1 year, it must have been a chaotic, crazy time to live in Rome, this 18 months of civil war. At some point, you might lose track of who's emperor because there's no newspapers or anything like that. Basically, you hear about stuff from word of mouth. So this would have been just an awful, chaotic time to live in Rome. Luckily, Vespasian was able to hold on to power for a lot longer. Things settled down, and he turned out to be a pretty decent emperor, much better than Nero had been. And he's the emperor. The reason you might remember his name is that he's the one that had the idea of building the Colosseum. So they tore down that palace that Nero had built, which had not completely built, but had been building because it was very unpopular with the people. And he built the Colosseum on that land as kind of something to show the people that he was more focused on them and less on himself than Nero was, right? And Vespasian holds on for power for about 10 years, and he starts what's called the Flavian dynasty, which is our next dynasty of emperors. Okay, there's entire books you can read all in that 1 year. I gave you a really kind of short and Cliff Notes version here, but there's all sorts of things that happen between the battles between those emperors, but I wanted to keep it kind of short for you today. But anyways, we learned about that recently in my Ancient Greece and Rome class. That's, of course, a class all about history and culture, so we covered this time period pretty recently. So I hope you guys enjoyed a little history. I do love hitting the history whenever we can, and we'll do some more facts of the day later. But I also want to help you today with your assignment that you did yesterday, which was exercise A on page 89. Thank you guys for submitting those to me. This one was due to me, so I gave you credit for doing that. You still might have not had it perfect, even if you did it, right? So you need to compare yours to what we've done here and see where your problems were if you had any problems, okay? These are the I stem nouns that we've been learning this week, and you have to know how to decline the I stem nouns and how to tell if a noun is I stem, okay? So let me show you how to decline the first one, which was Mare Nostrum. Mare Nostrum means our sea, and by the way, Mare Nostrum was what the Romans called the Mediterranean Sea, Mare Nostrum, our sea. Now, what's the key to declining this one? Well, mare. And as I look at this, I see a little mistake already, and it's going to confuse you. I wonder if I can fix it on the fly. Let me see how hard that would be to fix on the fly. Okay, because I don't want to confuse you. Okay, good. Hopefully I don't see any more, but if I do, I'll correct them. There was a mistake. Mare maris, neuter, meaning sea, right? So the importance there is it's third declension, and it's neuter third declension. Now, how do you know if this is I stem or not? Well, remember, for neuter words, there's only 2 I stem neuter words. So you just learn those 2 words, and then you learn how to decline those 2 words. There's not a long list, okay? So mare is one of 2 neuter I stems. The only other one is animal. So you'll definitely see those on the next quiz, okay? So what about this word, though, nostrum? This is the adjective. Now, this adjective is second declension. So since this is neuter, this will have neuter endings. Notice how the endings are not the same because this is a third declension I-stem neuter. This is a second declension neuter word. They're different declensions, but they are going to agree in gender, number, and case. So let's look it over here. Mare nostrum, the genitive is maris nostri, and the dative is mari nostro. The accusative is mare nostrum. Now notice how not for neuter words, the nominative and accusative are always the same. So that's why the accusative is mare. And then the ablative is mari nostro. Okay. All other nouns except for neuter third declension I-stem have an E here, eh. But the neuter I-stem are the only ones that have a long I there. So pay close attention to that one. I brought that up in our notes, but I want to highlight that. The nominative plural is Maria Nostra, and then Marium Nostrorum, excuse me. Notice how there's more I's here in the neuter, Marium Nostrorum, Maribus Nostris, Maria Nostra, and then finally Maribus Nostris, okay? So look over that, make sure you understood. And the whole point of declining these is to realize when words agree in a sentence. Hey, did I see Mari Nostro and know that those go together? If not, you won't be able to translate them together in a sentence, which is kind of the key to everything, okay? So that's our C, and if you find one of these that still isn't perfectly understood, pop into my office hours, show me what you didn't get, and I'll go over it with you. I'm happy to do that once you guys understand this. The next word is, excuse me, mons altus, which means high mountain or tall mountain. Now, mons montes is masculine. That's part of the vocab, is to memorize that. Now, the third declension I-stem masculine feminine words, there's a lot more of them. There's not only two like there is for neuter words. So how do I know if a word is I-stem? Well, you don't need to memorize a big list. There's 3 rules to look at a word and see, hey, is it I-stem or not, okay? If you remember those rules, you can apply them and know any third declension word. By the way, only third declension words can be I-stem. This word is third declension, so a first or second declension word can't be I-stem. Now, what makes this word I-stem? Well, this word is I-stem according to rule 2, right? Which says that any third declension word ending in ns or rs is I-stem, so that's why it's I-stem, it's rule 2. And montium, the I there, is because this word is I-stem. Non-I-stem words do not have an I in the genitive plural here, okay? Now this word's masculine, so notice how the adjective has masculine endings to agree with it, okay? So look it over, compare it to yours, see if you got it right. We have mons altus, montes alti, monte alto in the dative, montem altum, and then monte alto. The nominative plural, montes alti. Genitive plural, montium altorum. Again, make sure that I is there. Montibus altis, montes altos. And then finally, montibus altis is the ablative plural. Okay, so you want to make sure you understood that. That's a masculine I-stem word. And finally, we have navis longa. The difference here is navis longa is feminine, but that's only going to affect the adjective because masculine and feminine I-stem words decline just the same way. Now, how did I know this is I-stem? Again, it's all about the rules. Rule 1 says that words that end in is or es and their nominative and genitive have the same number of syllables, that is I-stem. So navis fits rule 1, okay? That's the biggest thing to learn this chapter and to understand is the masculine, feminine, I-stem rules. There's 3 of them. There's one of them we didn't see this exercise, so I want to review it with you. We have rule 3, which says any third declension word that's monosyllabic and its base ends in 2 consonants is I-stem. The example word in our notes was nox noctis, feminine meaning night. Nox is 1 syllable, and then noctis, the base ends with CT, which is 2 consonants, okay? So that's not this word, but I wanted to review that with you. Now this is feminine, navis meaning ship, so notice how I use feminine endings on the adjective, okay? So navis longa, long ship. Navis longae in the genitive, navi longae in the dative, navem longam in the accusative, and then nave longa in the ablative. Make sure you have that. Navis longae, navium longarum. Again, this is I-stem, so there's an I here. Non-I-stem words would not have that I there. Navibus longis, navis longas, and navibus longis is the plural here, okay? So the whole point is once we start translating sentences, I want you to be able to see that these words agree in a sentence and know that that's why they go together, okay? So I hope this helped you guys to kind of understand what you did right, what you did wrong. It's so important to do this before I go over with you and then find from my review what you did right and wrong. Okay, again, pop into my office hour if you need any more help. We're going to practice this chapter this week and also next week, and probably have a quiz towards the end of next week on this chapter, chapter 16, which is our last third declension chapter. All right, hope you guys are doing very well. Thank you for sticking with me and for peeking in and doing your homework and everything. And I will be back with you tomorrow. Walete.